It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy The Grind.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hockey Writers Grindline. I am your host for today's episode, Devin Little. I am joined today by my line mate, Evan Sabourin, and we are joined by our every so often line mate and colleague over here at the Hockey Writers, Tony Wolak. Gentlemen, how's it going? Good to see you both on this Friday evening.
What's up, man? Happy to be here, dude. I'm ready for the draft. It's draft season. We're almost there. It's probably one of the most exciting times of the year for me because I just love this stuff. Tony, how you doing?
Doing well. Nice to join you two guys tonight, and looking forward to talking about some Red Wings hockey as the hot stove heats up.
Absolutely, and like has been just alluded to, it's going to be a very draft-centric episode. It's just under 2 weeks away, or I think it's exactly 2 weeks away. So, or at least as we're recording this, so draft's on the forefront of the mind right now for pretty much every team except for the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers right now. But we're not talking about them right now. Let's get the show started. You know how we get the show started. One good, one bad. I am going to get us started. My one bad is going to be actually the news that came out over the last week that the Washington Capitals are buying cap friendly. Obviously, for me, it came out of nowhere. I was not expecting any sort of move like that. And obviously, cap friendly is a very, very valuable resource for fans, writers, pretty much anyone who talks about this sport has at least heard of cap friendly. And to be fair, there were cap friendlies before cap friendlies, and there will be cap friendlies after cap friendly. But it's a bummer to see this kind of put a spotlight on the fact that the NHL doesn't really care to like have fans know all the details about contracts and cap space, and you would really think that they would want to, especially with the league and their issues with LTIR right now. It's just for the sake of transparency. But it is what it is on that one. And then my one good is going to be the news that the Grand Rapids Griffins signed Gabriel Seeger, a collegiate forward, to a 1-year AHL deal. 24-year-old, so he's kind of a super senior. And he was one of those guys that got an extra year of eligibility in college because COVID basically knocked out one of his collegiate seasons. He had 74 points in 65 games with Cornell University over the last 2 seasons. Not really expecting him to light the world on fire or anything, but I think if he can be solid depth in the AHL, that's a good addition by the Red Wings organization. You got him for nothing, right? You just signed him to a contract. And if nothing else, I think he's going to be one of those guys that a month from now we forget he exists. And then come the red and white game in the fall, he's going to blow up and everyone's going to be like, who's this guy? Where'd he come from? And then we'll have to look at tweets and articles about them signing him again. But enough from my neck of the woods. Tony, it's your first time on in a little while. What's your one and good from the week? One good and one bad from the week.
So we're talking plenty about the draft tonight. Don't get me wrong. So I'll focus on something else for this. But the good for the week was the Utah franchise shared their color palette, their jerseys, their team name. Love the color palette. I think the mountain blue, the white, black mesh real well together. Very aesthetically pleasing. Really love that from a design standpoint. The bad is the name they chose, the Utah Hockey Club, instead of my preferred choice, the Utah Yeti. Also, don't love the diagonal Utah across the front. I really wish they would have just gone with an actual team name and use that as the basis for a logo. I'm based out of the Washington, D.C. area, so I was around the Washington football team for a while, so I'm kind of over the hockey club, football team, that sort of bland name. So looking forward to the day they announce their full-time name, which will probably be hopefully next summer, if not sooner.
God, I hope it's Yeti.
We're a Yeti podcast, it looks like. I just want to say real quick, I'm surprised that they're not further along in that process than they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's been talks about Utah and hockey coming to Utah for a while now, and they're just now figuring out what they want to be called.
I get it. I get it. Elliot Freeman brought it up this morning on his podcast. Since they're not going with an official team name just yet, they have the opportunity to sell two types of jerseys: the initial launch and then the actual team name down the road. From that perspective, it makes sense. I don't love it, but it makes sense.
Who wants a Fanatics jersey anyway? Just don't even buy it. It's Fanatics. Ugh.
What a good segue, Evan. What's your one good and one bad from the week?
Well, you stole my bat again, and I was gonna go off on Cap Friendly. Yeah, I mean, all three of us I know use it religiously, especially with writing, and it's just that handy tool that it's my number one bookmark on my computer. So not having that, I think we're gonna have it through free agency, I believe that is, before it gets shut down, and it's just unfortunate that but I think the guys at Puckpedia are gonna get something going there. So my other bad is these people on Twitter these days, they're so bad to the point where I saw Ken Cal tweet out yesterday he's thinking about quitting Twitter. And that's a bummer because Ken Cal is one of the most beloved characters in Hockey Town, and he's been the voice of the Red Wings for longer than I can remember. And he's really fun on Twitter. He's good to engage with. He's always someone who talks and likes it. And it would suck if he got off Twitter because he's a good dude. My good is, God, man, this is gonna sound scary, but yesterday was the 22-year anniversary of the Wings beating the Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup 2002. So,
Paul Maurice and the Carolina Hurricanes, if I'm not mistaken.
oh Jesus, man, time is flying fast. But it was good to see a lot of those videos populate yesterday throughout social media. 22 years, man, it doesn't seem that long ago, but man, we're getting old fast.
Yeah, no kidding. Greatest team ever formed, right, guys? We can all agree
Right.
on that one.
It's
All
up there.
right. It's absolutely, absolutely. All right. I think we've pushed off the draft talk too long now. Let's get into it. Let's talk general draft strategy here. I think we can all agree, the three of us, that best player available is still the right way to go if you're the Red Wings or really any team, to be honest with you. But with that being said, is there a specific position that you would like to see Detroit address in the draft, whether it's in the first round or just at some point throughout, maybe add some depth? Evan, what are you thinking? Is there a position that you'd like to see the Red Wings draft some guys at?
Well, I mean, again, this is going to all come down to how the board plays out. If a guy like, a centerman like Constant Hellenius drops, then that would be, oh, wow, that'd be awesome. Again, I think they go best player available. I think that's something you have to do at 15. If any of those forwards there, and the guys I really like, as far as like Beckett Seneca, um, possibly Michael Haig, but I think he could be had later. And a guy like Adam Jurasek is like too good of a talent maybe to pass up at 15 if he's still there. I think the run on defenseman is going to go pretty early in this draft. So there may be some high end forwards there. And at the end of the day, I mean, we were just talking to one of our colleagues from the Hurricanes, who even knows that the Red Wings make a pick this year if they can trade something to get that Martin Netchus here, that the name that we don't stop hearing this summer. Probably the biggest free agent or biggest trade chip on the market that everyone wants now. I don't know how many articles I've seen this week from the hockey writers of different teams proposing ways to get him. So who knows, even if the Red Wings make a pick there. So, I think there's going to be a good player there. I think best player is available. But if there's really a forward there that they like, I think that's where they got to go. There's really only two, I think, first line centers in this draft. So I think Consta Hellenius might top out at a two center, but I don't know. We'll see how the board plays out. I mean, this is why this is the funnest time of the year to see how this all plays out.
I can't say I disagree. Tony, what about you? Is there a particular position that you think the Red Wings need to add some depth to in the draft?
I was giving this a lot of thought today after we send out our plans for what we're going to discuss today. But looking at Detroit's organizational depth, I'll start in net and work my way out. Obviously, the Red Wings have Sebastian Cossa and Trey Augustine in net. They're good there. There's no first round like elite goalie anyway, so nothing to worry about there. On defense, you're looking at kind of a full pipeline, to be honest. You have, if you're looking at, like, if you're ranking Detroit's defensemen in terms of tiers, you have Seider, Edvinsson, and Sandin Pellikka in like your tier one. And then tier two, just below that, more bottom four, number four or bottom pair defensemen. You're looking at Albert Johansson, William Wallinder, Zeev Buium, Andrew Gibson, Antti Tuomisto. And then there are additional prospects beyond that in your tier three, but there's depth there. There's a good amount of players there. You like having a top four that consists of Seider, Edvinsson, and Sandin Pellikka, plus TBD, other defensemen, whether it's a free agent, a draft pick, a trade acquisition, you name it. And then that brings us to forward. You're down the road, like 5 years down the road, you got Larkin entering his 30s. You have Lucas Raymond, Alex DeBrincat, probably, hopefully, will still be here. Danielson, Casper. The Red Wings are still lacking a game breaker up front. At that point, you're looking at the current prospect pipeline. Maybe a Carter Mazer will slot into the second line. Maybe it's Berggren at that point. Still, someone's missing. So looking at this draft, in my opinion, as like the last time the Red Wings are going to be eligible for the lottery, hopefully next season they're in the playoffs and they're picking, 17, 18, 19, 20 later on. This is really their last opportunity to select a potential game-breaking player. And since they have pretty solid depth on defense, I'm leaning towards a forward. And with the run of defensemen that's expected to go in the top 10 or top 12, that should play out nicely for the Red Wings. As Evan alluded to earlier, Beckett Seneke might still be there. Cole Yzerman might be there. Constantine Helenius might be there. I really think the Red Wings should hone in on a forward. I think that's just how things are going to play out in front of them, but that's to their advantage as well. That's where the biggest opportunity lies. So hopefully it turns out nicely for the Red Wings and they get to select a game breaker who plays in their top six down the road.
I think I really agree with your sentiment there that positional need wise, they should look towards a forward, but it also might very well end up being the best player available as a forward just because of how the board's going to shake out for them. One of those perfect moments where BPA and positional need kind of coincide with each other. I do agree, just even outside of all the other players that are available in the draft and how the board's going to shake out, I do think the Red Wings need at least one more, potential core forward they can build around. They haven't drafted a winger since they drafted Lucas Raymond in 2020. Personally, if I'm like getting down to the nitty gritty of it, I'd like to see them get a winger, just to even play on the other side of the ice as Raymond. They drafted Danielson last year. They drafted Casper the year after that or the year before that. So they have their centers and they can still get a center this year. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm, just calling my shot, so to speak, get a winger, get a nice winger that either is super physical and has some skill to him or has some elite traits. Like you said, Tony, it's probably their last real chance to pick in a lottery slot. So make the most of it. Really, that's all you can ask for, right? All right, now we're going to pivot to our first off the rush segment. I'm a little rusty at dishing these out. I'm used to trying to answer these, so you have to forgive me if my off the rush questions aren't super deep or curveball-y. Tony, we're going to start with you. And this is a question that Evan's already answered, so I'm going to give you something different, Evan. How do you feel about the idea of trading up or trading down, Tony? Obviously, you'd probably want to see a package before you really give an idea on it, but just in a vacuum, how interested are you in the idea of moving forward or moving back in this year's draft?
It obviously depends on which players are available in the Red Wings pick at 15, but certainly open to both perspectives. I actually have an article coming out Saturday morning that outlines the expected cost for moving up in the draft. So that is it's expensive, even if you're moving up a couple slots. However, again, if the Red Wings are going to be, this is the last chance for a lottery-esque pick or top 10 or top 15 pick, might as well consolidate their second and first round pick into a better first round pick and get maybe like a Berkeley Catton or a Consta Hellenius or what have you. As far as moving back goes, no objections to that either, but just not too far back. Maybe 18 or 19 would be the furthest I'd want to go, and then that's really it, because you can expect St. Louis to draft a defenseman just after the Red Wings. And then you have, I believe, Washington and Chicago after that. So 18 or 19 is the furthest back I'd go.
Solid. Evan, over to you. My question for you is a player we don't talk about a lot on this show because there's a slim chance that the Red Wings are going to be able to get him is actually Zeev Buium. And the reason why we maybe should talk about him a bit more is because the Red Wings have his brother in the system, Shai. My question for you, Evan, is if for some reason Shai's brother starts falling down the board here and he's still available at 10, 11, and you're Steve Yzerman, are you looking to reunite the brothers?
Yes.
I even wait for the question to
No, yeah, you already had me halfway through the question. You had me at Buim. That's the Jerry Maguire. You had the Jerry Maguire line. Absolutely. I don't see a world where that guy's available. I mean, he had an amazing season this year, and yeah, I mean, sure, it'd be great to get the brothers to play together, but I think he's one of the better defensemen in this draft. He's at least in the top 3 to me. After Solyov and who am I forgetting? Yes. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the case where the Red Wings would have to pick the best player available, and I don't think they would hesitate to get I think he's a top 7, 8 talent in this draft. Kid's going to be a star, I think. So not so sure about his brother, but still, we'll see.
Maybe a random Red Wings trivia question. When's the last time brothers played for the Red Wings, and has that ever happened? I'm honestly not sure.
The Smith.
Yeah, it has Giovanni Smith.
Oh yeah,
Didn't they both
Giovanni
play?
and Jamel. Yeah, for like one game, I'm pretty sure.
Didn't they? I think so. I can't remember.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's probably the answer. Good job, guys. That was real fast. All right, let's take a quick timeout. Let's pay the bills. We've gotten off track a little bit. Let's pay these bills. This episode is brought to you by the Hockey Writers 2024 NHL Draft Guide. It has everything and anything you're looking for in terms of prospect profiles, team-centric draft coverage, our site-wide mock draft, rankings. You ask for it, it's there. It's a comprehensive list of all sorts of draft goodies, led by our own Peter Baracchini. Check it out on the Hockey Writers main page. It's up on the red banner. And check out of course, check out our Red Wings centric draft coverage, because there is more of it to come between now and the beginning of the 2024 NHL draft. All right, nice little timeout. You're feeling refreshed, guys, because we have to jump right back into this. Obviously, we know pretty well established at this point, the Red Wings are picking 15th in the first round of this year's draft. And as we were saying before we started recording, it's a lot harder to plan for what is going to be available for the Red Wings than it has been in previous years, because they're just picking a little bit later. There's a few more variables to account for, right? So with that being said, Evan, we'll start with you on this one. Just who are some guys you're looking at 15th overall, and maybe give us an idea of why you're looking at them.
Well, as I've told you guys, I'm a huge Beckett Seneca fan. I really like this guy. He's grown about 4 or 5 inches in the last year. Skating is a little questionable, but that's something he's gonna have to adjust to as his body's still growing. But he looks like he has the potential to be a some kind of game breaker. He can dangle with the best of them. I think he's highly skilled. And another guy, and please don't throw anything at me at this. I I have a hard time, going back and forth, but you can't deny the guy's talent. It's just the background history was with Trevor Connolly. I think he's one of the most skilled players, one of the best skilled players in this draft. And he'd be going a lot higher if we don't have to go into his background stuff. I've talked to we've talked that to death, but those two guys are two guys that I'm really looking at. All these mock drafts I'm looking at have everyone's got Michael Brenzig Nygaard, going to the Wings at 15. He's the Steve Yzerman 200-foot hardworking player. He's one of the closer players to being ready coming out of this draft. But I really like to see what Beckett Seneca, if he can make it there. And I've seen mock drafts that have him going anywhere from like 8 to 20. It all just depends. But he's one of the highest risers, I think, coming out this season. So, but for me, it's probably between him. Consta Hellenius drops. That would be my first choice. Don't see that happening. But I do have a hard time seeing Yzerman maybe going with that Trevor Connolly route with all the baggage. But I wouldn't be upset if that ended up being the Red Wings pick.
I think nothing shows how much variability there is with who's going to be available for the Red Wings than Beckett Seneke. Because like you said, some places have him going 7th overall, other places have him going 20th. And I think we'd all agree that he's at least a really good pick at 15th. So if that doesn't tell you just how many different ways this draft could go, I don't know what will. Tony, over to you now. Who do you have your eyes on at 15th overall? And same thing with Evan. Maybe give us an idea of why you're looking at these players.
Yeah, it's funny we mentioned the variability with the Red Wings picking 15th. So they're, I guess, kind of looking at 5 different players that could be available here, just given what could happen. Beckett Seneke, number 1. I'll come back to him. There's a pretty decent chance that Cole Yzerman falls to number 15. His offense is it's undeniable, and the Red Wings need goals, whether it's now in the NHL or in their prospect pipeline. They need goals, and Yzerman can do that. It's his number 1 trait. He can score, and he can score with the best of them. But obviously, there are some traits that need a little bit of work, as with most draft prospects. There's also a couple of Steve Yzerman-esque players that I would not be surprised if they were the number 15 pick. First is Jet Lachenko. Again, high motor, high energy, offense. Most are expecting him to go a little later in the draft, but then again, that hasn't stopped Yzerman in the past. Another is Stian Solberg, the defenseman. I've seen comparisons to Moritz Seider and how he rocketed up the draft boards late in the year. Oh, very physical defenseman, has some offensive capabilities. Again, high energy, high motor, high compete. Very much a Yzerman and Chris Draper pick. The last one is Michael Hage. Devin, you talked about him a little bit in your last article as a potential target. The last half of the year when he put everything together after going through some adversity, after losing his father, and just not being able to put together his game completely early on, which is completely understandable. Another potential top 6 player down the road, plays center, he can play wing as well. Incredible offensive talent. Any of these players could be available for the Red Wings. More than likely that 3 or 4 of these players will be available. If it was up to me, it'll be Beckett Seneke. I agree with Evan there. Just his overall skill set, the hands, the vision, decision making, and skating. It's something that fits in with what the Red Wings need in the top 6. Also, I mean, obviously he has some size that he's grown into recently. He's proven that he can be successful in the playoffs when the games get a little tougher. What I actually like about the recent growth spurt that he's gone through is that you see sometimes players coming out of juniors who are 6'4", 6'5", power forward types. They've been much bigger than everyone else their whole life. So they're kind of reliant on that sort of game, just being able to be physical and just outmatch anyone that they're up against. NHL is different. Like it's not like everyone's that size. And if you're not that size, you can play against that size effectively. Seneke grew up playing like an undersized player, so he understands how to win battles. He understands how to approach the game as if he was 5'10", but he's actually 6'3" now. So when he puts on some more muscle, he'll be able to play effectively as like a smaller player type and as a power forward type, being a bull in a china shop. And that kind of shows the evolution that to his game, where he knows how to evolve, with the changes that are going on with him, with the players around him. So that's something he's going to need in the NHL level, and that's a valuable trait to have. So from my perspective, at least, he's the top choice if he's available.
Yeah, I like the Cole Yzerman pick too. That's a guy I can see going right to freaking San Jose or Minnesota right before the Red Wings pick.
Right there.
Always that one pick away. But that would be it. That would be another one of my top choices in there. So that's a good call, Tony.
I agree. I agree with a lot what you both said. I'll just kind of add on to the Seneke talk. The big thing that really stands out to me is just the things he does with the puck and the confidence in which he does it. Um, Confidence is key in hockey, I think, across pretty much every position. Goalies, if they aren't feeling confident, they let in everything. Defensemen, if they aren't feeling confident, they get beat by fourth liners. If forwards aren't feeling it, they send the puck up to the netting when they have a wide open net. Confidence is such a huge thing, and I think Seneke he has that aura to him. He's a very confident young man, and I think that that's something that will translate at the NHL level. I think the Red Wings need more confident players that play confident with the puck on their sticks. Um, it's if you've watched the Red Wings for a long time, you know that they've always been a team-oriented organization. Like I said a episode or two ago, Pavel Datsyuk never hit 100 points, and he definitely could have. But the Red Wings were always about dishing it around, and everybody kind of got to eat, right? I think that this version of the Red Wings needs to have a guy that is confident enough to just go get a goal, to go make a defender look stupid. And I think Seneke can be that type of player. I love your note there about him growing, Tony. He learned to play as a small kid, and now he has size. What can he do with that, right? Now he can beat defenders not just with his hands but with his body too, and he's only going to get stronger as he trains as a professional and whatnot. I just think he oozes potential, and I think that that's the type of player that you hope is there at 15th overall. Because when you're picking outside of the top 10, you kind of have to expect that you're not going to get a slam dunk guy, but with a player that has the potential of Seneke, I think that he's about as close to a slam dunk as you can get when you're picking that low, so to speak. One other guy I do want to throw out too is Yzerman. I want to kind of just add my 2 cents there. If Yzerman's there at 15th overall, I think he definitely deserves some strong consideration. He's one of few forwards in this class that I think has a chance to be legitimately elite, and it's because of his shot. It's because of his ability to score goals. The Red Wings need that, like you said, Tony. They need it in the present and they need it in the future. I mean, I can imagine a Larkin, Raymond, Yzerman line right now, and that's a line that will feed that will feed souls. Um, I basically, long story short, what I think the Red Wings need to do is I think they need to get a player with the highest amount of potential they can get, and a player that just kind of elevates their team's overall ceiling, whether that's a year from now or 5 years from now, however long it's going to take them. But whatever raises that ceiling is something they need to investigate. Um, Yeah. All right. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. We're gonna do a 2 round mock draft to conclude this week's episode. Before we get drafting, Tony, I know you have you want to kind of lay the land out for us. So you have the floor, my friend.
Thank you, Devin. So we're all playing out the same sheet of music here. We are going to outline the first 14 picks, and then we'll make our selections from there. And so the first 14 picks, these were decided based on conversations we've had with other reporters and journalists who cover their respective teams that are picking 1 through 14, what their organizational needs are, based, and then looking at who's available at their draft slot, who would the organization pick, not their personal preferences, but their GM, their tendencies, who would they pick. So I'll run down the list of the first 14 picks, and then we'll turn it back over to Devin to kind of set us up for number 15. So number 1, San Jose, Macklin Celebrini. No surprises there. Number 2, Chicago, Ivan Demidov, Kane and Taves 2.0 with Connor Bedard. Anaheim, right defenseman, Artyom Levshinov, Jamie Drysdale replacement for their prospect pipeline. Columbus, left defenseman Anton Silyev. They have found success drafting Russian players, and Silyev is the next great Russian defenseman. Montreal, center Caden Lindstrom, definitely going forward this year, and Lindstrom is the top of their list, with TJ Ginla being a close second. Utah, left defenseman Zeev Buium, need a marketable player for their first year as a franchise. So what better to draft a player who just won the NCAA championship, who's from just west in San Diego and won the championship just east in Denver. Ottawa, right defenseman, number 7, Zane Parekh. General Manager Steve Sayos is well connected in the OHL, and obviously Zane Parekh has done a great job this season and could be Erik Karlsson 2.0 for them. Seattle at number 8 takes Sam Dickinson. Their defense could use another addition in their prospect pipeline. Dickinson is an outstanding player to fill that void. Number 9, Calgary, TJ Ginla. No shocker there. If they don't pick him, Craig Conroy will get fired into the sun. New Jersey, number 10, taking Michael Bransick-Nygaard, for changing it up a little bit, going for something that they don't have instead of similar players to what they have already. Buffalo, doing the complete opposite and sticking with what they found success with, taking small forward Berkeley Catton. Philadelphia, number 12, taking Konsta Helenius to be hopefully their number 1 center, to pair with Matvei Michkov down the road. Number 13, Minnesota, right defenseman Carter Yakimchuk. Minnesota desperately needs depth on the blue line, and Yakimchuk is the best player available. Lastly, number 14, San Jose, taking right defenseman Adam Jiricek. Again, it's a black hole on the right side of their blue line in their prospect pipeline, and Jiricek would have been a likely top 10 pick if not for injuries this season. So that brings us to the Red Wings at number 15. I'll turn it back to Devin.
Yes, and after the first 14 picks, there are still some very notable names available. I think based on our conversation on the last topic, we probably know where this one's going. But just kind of give a quick rundown on who's still on the board. Cole Yzerman's still available. Beckett Senecke's still available. Trevor Connolly's still available. Liam Greentree's available. Michael Hagee's available. There's a lot of other guys that are still on the board, but just kind of throwing out some names that we've already mentioned on this episode. So with that being said, all right, boys, we're at the draft table. Who are we taking at 15th overall?
I'm going back at Seneca, and then I'm dancing my ass out of the spear. I'll go see Carrot Top at the Luxor. I'm happy with that pick. Again, I think we all know after our previous conversation that I'm in love with this guy. Again, I like what Tony says about Cole Yzerman. If he's there, I mean that's a tough decision there for me, Cole Yzerman or Seneca. But I think I just got to go with Seneca, that big type of banging winger with the great skills and high ends. I see a little Tage Thompson in him.
Yeah.
I just think this is a guy that and again, I've seen mock drafts. I've seen him going 12 to Philadelphia. I've seen him going, yeah, he's a big riser. So I'm really hoping that's a guy that's there, and that's who I'm doing, and I'm dancing.
AGM Devin, are you feeling the same way before I make the call?
Yeah, I mean, I do think with how the board sits right now, you're either doing Yzerman or you're doing Seneke. I think that Seneke has a more well-rounded game, and I think that the Red Wings typically covet those types of players. I think Yzerman maybe has a higher ceiling, but a much lower floor. I think you fill a lot of needs with Seneke, so I'm definitely on board with the pick here.
Yeah, and I think Seneke is probably a better organizational fit than Yzerman, despite his last name. But I think that's our pick, number 15, Beckett Seneke. You're a Detroit Red Wing.
Woo!
Off the Carrot Top.
Off to Carrot Top. Also,
He
the
still plays
spear
at the
is
Luxor.
awesome and cool. All right, but like I said, we're not just doing a one-round mock. We are doing a two-round mock. So now we're into the second day now. We watched Carrot Top. It was great. Had a few drinks, saw a few shows. One of us got lost on the roof, but we did find them, and we're back for the second round.
Tony's with a tiger and locked in his
Exactly.
room, and
One of these teeth is fake.
You guys.
Bet you didn't think we were making hangover references today. All right. So the second round, we're picking 47th overall. We kind of have to just kind of do a rough simulation, kind of have an idea of who's going to be available. Obviously, when we're doing this for real, teams are going to go off the board. There's going to be players that we're going to be pounding the desk. You got to pick this guy. I can't believe he's even there. But for right now, we have to deal with what the simulation gives us. And on my end, at least, the top players that are still available are Teddy Stiga, John Mustard, Thomas Galvis, Raul Bayard, Sam O'Reilly. Just kind of skimming down here, Brody Zeemer, EJ Emery, Lucas Pettersson. Yeah, there's a few others as well. I guess this is kind of where we get to kind of branch off and really talk about the wide array of prospects that are available in the second round and kind of what we want to accomplish with the second pick. Tony, I'm gonna start with you on this. What are you leaning? Where are you leaning with this second pick?
I was surprised to hear that Teddy Stiga is still available. So that was a bit unexpected. Sam O'Reilly, typical Red Wings pick, 200-foot player, high compete, playoff performer, good for organizational depth. John Mustard, I'm high on him as well. Obviously, great speed to his game. Again, another high motor, high compete player as well. Fits in with the Red Wings. It's a goal scorer too. Scored 29 goals this year in the USHL as a rookie. Actually won the Rookie of the Year award in the USHL. Probably projects in the bottom six, but that's a pretty safe projection. I'm good with all three of these players, so I will let you two convince me which player to go with at number 47.
give me the Mustard, man. I'm with you on that one, and I know I've told you guys earlier. He's off to Providence next year. Going to play with Trevor Conley, actually. Yeah, exciting player. I think he'd be a great get in the second round. I'm hoping he's there. I've seen mock drafts though have him going at the end of the first though. Even he's a talented player. Speed, more speed, something the Red Wings can use. So I'm very safe with going John Mustard there. I also like, and I know you didn't mention this name, but Alphonse Frey, and that's another guy who's kind of been rising up draft boards, defenseman, and Red Wings love their Swedish defenseman, and that could be in play, especially if the Red Wings do look to make some trades with their plethora of the depth defense that they have as prospects. So it's another guy I like. I think he could be a solid addition. Again, he's a mover up the board, so I don't know if he's going to be there. But I think Frey and Mustard would be between my two guys. Again, Teddy Stiga would love that too. I could go with that as well. I think he's another guy. I interviewed Russ Cohen yesterday from EP, and he thinks he has Stiga ranked in his top 20. So, and he says everyone else is wrong, and he's right. So, Stiga's the kind of guy that he'll do whatever it takes. The team doesn't care where you put him out there. He's a battler, a team player. And he had a really great showing this year in the World Juniors and whatnot. So another guy I like is those three are. I don't think you can go wrong with any of the three you guys mentioned, and I'll add Alphonse Frey. But if I had a pick right now, I'd say John Mustard. You're the newest Red Wing.
I think that both Mustard and O'Reilly are, and like you said, I think you already said this, Tony. They're Red Wings picks. Like they just kind of scream Steve Yzerman, Chris Draper, what they've been looking for in their, at least their forward prospects. High effort, aren't afraid to go to the dirty areas. They both play with speed and tenacity. I think that if you're trying to get a home run in the second round, I don't know if this is the draft to do it first and foremost, but I don't know that either of these guys are that. I think that, optimistically they're middle six guys, but realistically, I think John Mustard's maybe a 3C, a really good 3C, but a 3C nonetheless. One other guy, I'll throw this one out there because I didn't mention him either. If Luke Misa's there, he gives me, he shows me shades of Braden Point. Um, and he could kind of be the Axel Sending Pelika of the forward group if the Red Wings were to draft him. He's smaller, very fast, very dynamic in terms of how he sees the ice. But obviously there's concerns about his speed, or concerns about his size, I should say, sorry, not his speed, and how that translates. And he's a little inconsistent this year in the OHL. And there's all sorts of things with that as well. But I think that he has a very dynamic toolkit. But I'm not going to be advocating for him in this spot. I think that in the spirit of getting this as close to what the Red Wings would do and not what Devin would do or what Evan would do or whatever, I think I'm going to go with, I don't know. I'm going to say Sam O'Reilly or John Mustard. One of the two. If I have to pick, I'll say Sam O'Reilly. But if we're going Mustard, all I'm going to ask is that I get to bring some ketchup too.
Oh boy, you were waiting for that one, dude. Oh,
absolutely.
I mean, you can see the headlines already with Mustard. And
absolutely.
All right. So
the Red Wings relish the opportunity to pick John.
There you go. See, headlines. There you go. You're on fire.
Absolutely. I guarantee you, John Mustard has not heard any of this before in his entire life.
Never.
All right. So we shared our picks, banging the table for the different players. Number 47, we're going to go with John Mustard. He is a true and true Red Wings pick. High compete, high motor, plays with speed, plays with energy and tenacity. Kind of reminds you of Chris Draper a little bit.
Yes.
If you ask me.
100%.
He gives the Red Wings a pretty solid bottom six player. Adds depth and potentially someone who can move up up a little higher in the lineup if need be, but has a very safe floor for a mid-second round pick. So welcome to the Red Wings, John Mustard.
Tell you what, if the Red Wings come out of the first two rounds with Beckett Seneke and John Mustard, I think that you got to feel pretty good. I think they both fill needs that the Red Wings need, lack of better phrasing. But also, this is going to be a big draft, and this hasn't been touched on yet. But I think this is a big draft because next season is when I think the prospect pool is going to start really not thinning out, but it's going to start yielding NHL players, which means that there's going to be fewer players in the pool and fewer players of a certain type. So I think that, if you're going to graduate Marco Casper, for example, to the NHL next year, it makes sense to want to add a John Mustard who also has a nose for getting to the dirty areas and is a center, two-way centerman, and has all those traits you want to see in a Red Wing centerman. Obviously, Mustard doesn't have the same upside as Marco Casper, but I think you know what I'm saying. You're trying to kind of replenish what you're taking from the pool, at least as best as you can with the resources you have. Um, I think that's going to be a big thing for the Red Wings starting this year and into future drafts. Um, but now that we've mocked 15 and 47, I have one more off the rush for both of you, and then we'll close it out. Evan, I think we started with Tony last round, so I'm going to start with you this time. Um, let's uh, let's say that. Okay, you know what? I'm going to rephrase this. Who's your dream faller in this draft outside of like the obvious ones? Obviously, Macklin Calabrini's not fallen 15 spots. Obviously those top guys, they're going to be the top guys. But who are you like, crossing your fingers and hoping that falls because oh boy, that'd be awesome if the Reds were able to get them. I know we kind of already talked about Zeev Buium, but let's talk about someone else.
It's Berkeley Catton. I was gonna interrupt you again and say it before you finished. I think yeah, he's just a dynamic. I think he's gonna be, he's someone that could fall somewhere between maybe that 8 and 12, 13 range. I don't think he's gonna make it to the Red Wings. I just don't. I've seen him mock to Buffalo, which really pisses me off. And that team just every year, Um, but I don't think. I mean, this guy is a point producer. You can't deny the talent. The only reason I can see him maybe dropping is the size. It's just 5'10", but you can't pass on a talent like that. Um, that's the guy that would be the dream for me. I know other people I've done mock drafts with or have screamed out Tidge Ginla. That's not happening. I heard at the combine. I don't think he was really teams are in love with him there. I think he's going to be a pretty dynamic player. I think we could see him go even in the top 6 or 7, maybe, possibly. And I definitely don't think Calgary's going to let him go. Get past Calgary at 9. So, yeah, Berkeley Catton is my guy, man. That's just you can't pass up those kind of point totals that he put up this year. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, agreed. Yes.
I was leaning Catton as well, so let me give you a different name. It would not surprise me if somehow Sam Dickinson fell. I think with Levchinov and Salayev and Zeev Buium and Zane Parekh, there are skill sets that they have that scream elite, certain skills, right? Sam Dickinson can be a minute eater, all-around defenseman, very unlikely, but if he fell to 15, he would fit in perfectly with Detroit's blue line with Edvinsson and Seider and Dickinson and Sandin Pellikka. Yeah. That would be an elite top 4 for the Red Wings. Highly doubtful that he falls that far, but if he did, that would be an outstanding pick for the Red Wings.
Another guy we didn't really talk about too, though, is Adam Jiricek. I'm curious what your thoughts are on him, Tony and Devin. He was hurt.
I'll go first. I would not be surprised if San Jose snapped him up right before the Red Wings, just because of the organizational need there. His injuries that he sustained this season, while significant, I have a hard time believing that they're going to derail his career at this age. So I do think that, that's the reason why a team like San Jose would draft him at number 14 over someone like Cole Yzerman or Beckett Seneke. Is they're potentially getting a top 10 talent at number 14. It just may take a couple of years to fully realize that. And that's exactly what they need right now in their rebuild. As for the Red Wings, if they drafted him, sure, great. That's good for them, but there are other needs that they need to fill over right defense.
I agree. And I think that Juracek's going to be fine. I think there's I can see him actually going pretty high just because he's a right-handed defenseman, and those are always very coveted. And Juracek has potential. And I mean, even if you're looking for a reason to buy into him, you can just look at his brother over in Columbus. I know that he hasn't exactly lit it up to this point in his career, but he's shown a lot of promise. And I do think that to some extent, hockey skill is genetic. I mean, we're seeing that with TJ Ginla too, right? Like, I think that, like I said, I think Juracek's gonna be fine. I think he'll be. I don't know. He's gonna be a top pairing guy. I think he could be a middle pairing guy. But he's worthwhile in the middle of the first round for sure. I think if San Jose gets him at 14, I think that's a solid pick for them. I do agree though that um, I don't know that that's a guy that the Red Wings should be looking at. I wouldn't hate it if they grabbed him, but I also would definitely be like, but what about that guy? Or what about like, oh, huh? Okay, I guess. But I was like that with Nate Danielson and Marco Casper the last 2 years, and I like them a lot now too. So who knows? um, and I also want to say too, it is so fitting. I think you kind of alluded to this, Tony. That Berkeley Catton goes to Buffalo in this draft because Berkeley Catton is the Zach Benson of this year's draft. Insanely talented, should probably maybe even be a top 5 pick in this year's draft just based off of talent. But oh, he's too small, and we all know small players don't produce in the NHL. Right. Um,
That never
so
plays
yeah,
out year after year. Never plays
yeah,
out.
never. Every year, these small players get drafted high, and nothing ever comes of them. Right?
Yeah.
Nothing ever does. Um, Buffalo's going to end up having the smallest team in the NHL, but like the hardest team to contain because they just have so much skill if it plays out like this. And one other player, I know we're starting to run low on time here, but one other player I want to throw out just because we didn't really talk about a lot, and it's because he went 10th overall in our table setting, so to speak. But Michael Brensteg Nygaard has had a lot of noise going on with the Red Wings. Apparently, they're one of the teams that he's talked with the most. He's talked with Chicago and Montreal also, I believe. Those are the teams he named. So there is some smoke around him and the Red Wings, and I
Yeah.
think that that's a pick I could see. He compares a lot to Tyler Bertuzzi to me, and obviously we're very familiar with Tyler Bertuzzi around here. And he brings that toolkit that the Red Wings are looking for in terms of high effort, goes to the dirty areas, tenacious, all that good stuff. Would not be surprised if he ends up being the pick if he's available at 15th overall. Just wanted to throw him out there.
And a
Just
lot of
because I have
scouts
seen
think
the
he,
smoke.
yeah, sorry to interrupt you there. Yeah, a lot of scouts think he's one of the more NHL ready players coming out of this draft. So he'd be an interesting pick. You know, I said earlier in the show, I've seen him more than any name to the Red Wings so far during this mock draft season. So we'll see.
We talk about Mustard and O'Reilly being Red Wings guys in the second round. I think Brandstad Nygaard's just like the Red Wings guy that's in the first round.
Okay.
But I think a lot of people thought that Wallstead was a Red Wings guy in 2021, Swedish goaltender, and they went with Sebastian Cossa. So um, you never know. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the pick, but um, you never know. Uh, maybe they've talked to him a lot and they haven't liked what they've heard. You never know. Um, we're about to wrap up here. Any final thoughts from the two of you? I know we just talked about a lot of prospects, a lot of draft stuff. If there's any kind of lingering thoughts you want to get out, now's the time. Nobody?
It was great to jump back on, and I I'm enjoying the Stanley Cup Finals, the draft, and the trades that come with the draft and free agency can't come soon enough. But otherwise, happy Father's Day, and we'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, happy
Absolutely.
Father's Day. Well, sorry. Yeah, happy Father's Day
Yep.
to everyone. It's my favorite time of the year. Like I said, this draft, I'm ready to get going. It's almost too far away still, even though it's a few weeks. But I'm ready to go for the draft and then get right into free agency. So this is one of the more exciting times of the year for me. So let's go, man. Let's go Wings.
our show is excited for the draft and free agency to start. So yes, Panthers, go ahead and sweep it. Let's get this done so we can start talking about the fun stuff. Thank you, Tony, for joining us. Evan, as always, thanks for joining me and helping us pull together this line again. Everybody send well wishes to Matt. He's a little under the weather. That's why he's not with us this week. Hopefully he'll be back next time we record. But of course, thank you. I thank you everyone for watching. Go check out the 2024 NHL Draft Guide over at thehockeywriters.com. So much good stuff there, and there's more coming down the pipeline. Probably 5 minutes from when you're watching this video. So go check that out. For all of us here at the Hockey Writers Grind Line, thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time.